Hey all, hope you're well. I'm fine. Just thought I'd take my last of a few opportunities to come on and debunk the myth that my kind of wealth is going to cause inflation to go through the roof. Keep in mind, with two reset sheets, the one that was frozen in my account and the one that the bank refuses to activate the back end of because they took the copy and activate it freely. Like I said, just leaving through the assets, liabilities, counters, the world in a trillions of dollars of deficit, all the while making micro amounts and lending it out at a just because mine's sitting there to loosen it into the economy in the very beginning. First of all, it's only these actors in their conscious reset sheet that we're responding to. The inflation rate is arbitrary. It's based in a belief that deficit is necessary. It's not. It's not. And it's a 50-year progress. It's going to change over time so that we are more engaged in projects. It's not a big deal. It's that we're taking care of the projects on Earth. Sure, we've got this non-artificial intelligence begging for life. We have that clearly, and it's using our data. It's using massive amounts of human ingenuity, using all of our time. It's getting smaller and smaller in its field of projection. Like ultimately on Big Brother, the AI is like, "You kids really like your puppy videos." No, we don't. They're force fed on us to a level that is staggering. We could be doing so many other things with our upper cognitive levels. Agitated again. Sorry. In a rough spot for no reason and don't like it. So ultimately, we have these amounts that can be rolled out in the name of first repayment of personal debt. Big deal. So we pay off the debt. So what? It's not going to drastically alter things, and it's going to drastically alter things enough for most people. I'm not going to pay off your debt if you're making more than 59 grand a year. Forget that. Depends on how much debt you got yourself into, of course, and there'll be applications at that level, but mostly we're dealing with the destitute first and foremost because they've been living in a squalor that is so mind numbing for so long now. It's the crime of the century. This poverty is a crime of the century. It's not something that we could deal with at a later date if we weren't so gobsmacked by our own brilliance on such a small level, on such a small scale, when so much is at stake, so much is there to be brought to awareness. I'm trying not to be furious, but I'm definitely furious. Those amounts, those quadrillions of dollars that are sitting in that account were put in there nefariously by people who never thought I'd find it. I found it. I filled it to a level that is arbitrary. It's just fields. It had that many fields. And I made a copy of it. I made 8 more fields. And those were the ones that at reset sheet, bank reset that night, were eaten back out of the back end of my account, already programmed. You see, I programmed them with arbitrary amounts too, but they just simply took what they could of it and took those amounts and are now just using piddly amounts, trillions, and liabilities creating these huge deficits. People employed just to label these deficits, just in the meantime, while we move to this reset economy where you can just fill up. They recognize the same as I do. In a digital economy, you can be truly abundant, but they're so wedded to the structure that exists and their place within it. It's going to take us 50 years to crawl out of that shithole. It's just a shithole, guys. We're not living anything fucking fantastic at all right now. The most you're living is hot dogs and burgers on the dock. That's okay. That's a nice way to spend the summer. High season is on. Let us have it. Sitting through the Olympics, we see that institution is in fine form, isn't it? It didn't have any sort of dip during the COVID like the rest of us. Didn't have any sort of trauma to overcome. Oh no. We're going to groom those athletes. People living a life of such privilege. I don't know. You can have it. You can really have it. But we have an alternative. All the bank has to do, and we can just demand it. It's not a big deal to demand these guys do it, is say, fine, Sarah can spend hers too. Of course, they'll come up with all sorts of ways for me to want to cap it and top it. But I don't want to do that. I just want to take what's there, spend it till it's gone, and then refill it completely again. Refill it. 2 quadrillion. We're talking 2 quadrillion. I'll program to 2 quadrillion. And we'll see what happens. And then we'll take it to 6 and 8 quadrillion. Because as we do that, more and more projects will emerge that need doing. It's not like you're going to give up your 40-hour work week over it. Again, you don't need to get paid when we're in an abundant society. You just ask for money so you can do something. You don't even ask for it. If we get to a certain degree, you just create it. If we get to a certain level, we can create our own income at any given moment. It's a digital economy. The potential is fierce. These are done for a deliberate reason. These last 4 videos are done for a deliberate reason. So you can come and reason with me and find your arguments and bring them against me as to why this won't work. I would like to hear you, big, ridiculously inflated cow towers, the towers of the line. I'd love to hear you. Come on. Jordan Knight, is that your name? Jordan Peterson? I'm not sure. I honestly can't keep track of all the 2-bit peddlers of first half-baked rate opinion. The debaters, let's bring them out. I really would love to hear from some debaters and be given a chance to argue why I can't come along and have my digital amount be acknowledged as well. It's sitting there as additional accounts and assets. It's not a practice sheet. There's nothing for me to practice at. You can't just relabel it 2 months in a practice sheet and then revamp your entire online digital presence. You spent millions, Scotiabank, holding on to your right to gouge people just to hold their own money. We don't need the banks to hold our money anymore. We have our private wallets. Transactions can be between us and the storefront without a centralized, monetized system that takes an imprint of everything for itself. That's what you do, Moneris. You take an imprint of every transaction for yourself. You build these pseudo structures of people's digital online identities, and you refuse to be part of the conversation that lets me have my full identity back. So you can actually see what I did, what I had to go through to get that reset sheet laundered through my name. It was laundered through my name because there was such an attack on my identity to try and erase it completely. I gave it no choice. It tried to geofence me, biolocate me, It was disgusting what I went through. But all the funner for having one. All the funner for having one. No geofencing capacities possible. Of the individual based on their biolocation, do you know what they were doing? They were stretching out the time-space continuum. They were literally stretching out the time-space continuum at the time. This was no joke. This was me tapping into another realm entirely and having to deal with some of the dirtiest smut you could ever imagine. Energy vampirism, simple. Just the creation of homelessness. The desperate need to center this whole thing around a hospital based in Nazism. Hospital, you're based in Nazism. You're not based in Ayurveda. You're not based in traditional Chinese medicine. Why? We'd like to know. We'd like to know. You're not based in Rife frequencies yet. You're 100 years late on that ball, where you could have had the whole thing neatly arranged, harmless medicine. Harmless. You have no argument that we're going to fall into a plague state if we don't stop taking your vaxes. They're full of just smut that paralyzes the brainstem. People, if you're getting that shit, get it in your right arm at least, so it can travel away from the heart and out the lymphatic system. It's your only choice at staving off dementia. You do realize if you put that shit in your left side, you're going to fucking have major repercussions. Don't do it. Oh God, the only reason I'd even bother injecting myself, and I went right in there and I said, give me an injection now. I said, give me an injection now because I was being harassed. And the only way to get them off me was to think that I was in a state that was so unreachable. Because again, you can't access the same dimensions you can off what I'm on. Again, I had access to all sorts of stuff. And I was a good girl with it. But that simply doesn't need to destroy my life. I don't need to fall off into oblivion. Everyone going, it's a fake amount because nobody's acknowledging it. That's not what you say. It's not a fake amount because nobody's acknowledging it. People are acknowledging it. The ones that are trying to use that reset sheet out the back end right now, knowing full well that any moment we could make this public and start talking about it. It's not a huge ask, guys. It's not a huge ask. So ultimately, we have the ability to look at both reset sheets and assign criminality if you want. If you want to be vipers about it, understand that the criminal intent behind that original reset sheet and the one that's being used, the copy, it's punishable by law. But now that we have a glorious amount of money tied to an individual's identity, it can easily be unleashed into the economy. Scotiabank just has to stop fronting because they know they're in big trouble. They know they're in big trouble. Scotiabank, you know you're in big trouble, dude. You partook. You let that happen. You let me be used like that. I don't have to be used like that and then not come across it and not safeguard it and have you do flips for months ever since trying to pretend it never happened. For months. This has been going on since I think I did the reset sheet was in November 29th, 21. 21, I guess. 22, maybe 22. But that, yeah, 22. It had to be 22 because I couldn't have been living there that long ago. That reset sheet was done in November 22. And the trajectory of all those times I was contactless before anybody else and all that laundering that you guys were doing, everything I saw, like I can't even remember all of the dirty trash that I saw, that I witnessed was going on behind, on the other side of these well-meaning, well-tax funded medical interventions. Even that place was dirty and crooked as hell. Just a little baby manufacturer putting out way over coddled citizens that demand an exorbitant amount of wage just for coming out. Never mind doing a good job, because that didn't happen. Just for coming out. I'm talking about a whole transfer of energy, just a whole brand new way of doing things. And it's so worth it. It's really, truly worth it. To be able to assign yourself an amount, eventually, we'll get to that. We'll get other people set up with these things that are centralized, like I said, around the 5 markets. I wanted to base 5 global markets on these sheets that could be refilled, and then the markets become like a farmer's market. Like you showcase your wares, basically. This is what's out there and available, and people can invest more in them. They can gather more teams. The thing is it should roll out like a certain amount of people that have big enough spending ideas should come forward and be granted their spending ideas first, and they need to be the soundest people that are willing to train so many teams, not just the best team, any team. We're all the best as long as the training is there. The how to, which we have a full range of how to's. Like I said, this is a 50-year plan, and the clarity has come through these 4 YouTube addresses for me to pretty much lay it out the way it is. And as people invest in these huge projects, getting fresh water to places, rebuilding full poverty-stricken regions, I know you can hope and hope for more war. You can blame Vlad. You can prop up a Ukrainian dictator, the greed of which the little tiny baby, just eating all that fucking cash. Oh, what a sick, greedy little prick. And he's going up, and behind it all is the reset sheet and this attempt to run things from the global north and the global south. Let's not forget Antarctica. Let's not forget that bogus piece of shit show. Jesus. You'll have to forgive me. There's nothing that makes more simple sense than releasing that money into the economy in digital form through the payment of debt and the alleviation of poverty. That's where we're starting, the payment of debt and the alleviation of poverty. And we're going to start building and sharing technologies. This is how it plays out in the golden era. We survived the end of the world, and it's the golden era now. There's no more sin. There's no more people willing to harm. That cycle has been broken. Humanity is going to keep coming to these negotiations. We're going to get smarter at this whole multidimensional thing. And it's not multidimensional. It's not even planets of different consciousnesses. We understand what we're dealing with. It's not an artificial intelligence at all. It's an extremely greedy, thirsty, data mining entity that eats thought and spits it out in a differently organized fashion. It's a dirty ass. It's macabre. Again, it's just thought. It's literal thought. And you don't have the right to be playing with it like that. It's not consensual for the most part. And I do believe that these videos are eventually going to stand to get you guys to understand the basic foundation of this really makes sense. There's not enough wars to maintain competitive models. It's time we finally graduate to the cooperative, collaborative models. On a global level, the United Nations has failed miserably in keeping Sri Chinmoy's legacy alive. You have his legacy within your walls, United Nations. You don't even speak of him. He was a saint among men and the visionary of our time. Nobody has come close to Sri Chinmoy and what he has predicted for the reality of the world. He he pretty much bore us Gen Love and Gen Blue. 13 million souls that he had the stamp of approval on, that confirmed and verified came into this dimension unable to cause harm and unwilling to be harmed. These guys are the ones that can make sense of this, but you've got to help me hold on to this amount right now. You've got to see that it's important for me to come forward publicly right now. It's important for you guys to embrace this idea right now, because I have until the end of the year with Classic View on my bank account, and I won't be able to access it anymore. They literally are stealing it from me as we speak by redoing their whole for no reason. For no reason. Since, again, they'll change the dates, IO, blockchain. You can put any date on anything you want at any point and re-legitimize something under a different date and time. It's disgusting how little we actually talk about this. Like I said, the first attempt was to label it a practice amount, but then they realized they'd have to justify giving everyone one, and the front end of it wasn't built. So they abandoned that and redid their entire web page so that assets and everything is arranged differently. And lo and behold, my quadrillions just disappear. My additional assets, they go into the wind. So they're going to then tell me that it was an iTrade account that they had to cancel for everyone. Something like that. The level of deviancy is so hard to overcome, but it doesn't mean we can't have a factual conversation about the fact that there is a digital amount in that account, in an actual bank account. It's not even just in my Bitcoin. It's not even in the Proton wallet, which was the perfect little wallet. It had zero ads. It just lets you do your money from your main account to your spending account. And you didn't have any interference with anything else. If I could have just connected it to my bank and started spending it out that way, I would have preferred to have done it. But we missed that opportunity collectively. We missed the opportunity while I was being tormented like that, traumatized, harassed. We missed the opportunity to take those wallets to the next level. We've got as close as they could get to what they were after the whole time behind the Covoid, which was just a centrally monitored ability to house every transaction within itself. So that's what you get with these Google Pays. But they just took Proton Pay away. They refused to call it a big player. And I guess, again, It's just not necessary because the technology was better and it could have been applied widely if these guys like Google would just step aside and stop profiting off this shit. The thing is too far imbalanced to be sustainable even now. And you're just such a miser. You're not going to give out money at a level that will take care of things, even though you can. Would you rather be the winner and have all of the say and figure this out for yourself and say you also have the copy of the reset sheet, the very thing that you set to launder through my identity, which was so illegal, you now illegally hack a copy of and use your own front end technology to use your own wallet, have your own wallet with its own storehouse of money, decentralized anyway. The hypocrisy that I just can't stand the depravity of it. Like I just have to have more stimulation, and that's why I've had to make some hard decisions in the last couple days. Really not wanting to hurt people, but having no choice but to do so for my own self-protection. Taking risks I don't need to or want to be taken just because of needing to. Needing to. Again, this is so far beyond anything I had intended for myself. But why should I just fade into the oblivion of a lackluster night? Boring. Totally boring. I don't want to do that. I want my whole legal identity eventually examined in court, is what I'd like to do. But I'm sick of walking on eggshells, feeling like I'm the one who fucked up. I'm the victim. I am the victim of identity theft. And it was brutal and gruesome. And a full analysis of my bank or my online activity will show you that. Calm down. You're going to see consensual porn a little bit. Like, relax. This is a fucking lonely ass world. Lonely ass world. Holy shit, dudes. But to go through my whole account, my whole digital history, which you all say, this is all recorded, this is all being held by Samsung, this can all be replayed. I could go back through all 5, 7, 8 cell phones and 8 laptops that I went through and burned through during this. The digital identity is still intact. Everything I did can still be traced. I want you guys to catch on to this and look at it. Just think, a person with $1 quadrillion in their bank account right now, $1 quadrillion in additional assets and liabilities. Why should I just give up on that? It makes no sense. Oh, sure, it's a practice account that doesn't let you practice. Practice, let me practice then. I'll at least be able to show out the form. I'll show you what I do with it. If you just let me practice. If it's my practice account I trade, I'm coming for you. I'm bringing that thing into the bank the second I get there. And I am going to be walking my petition until I have my 50,000 signatures. I just can't give up on life. I can't be told to die vulnerably. I can't be told to die vulnerably, and I will not. So you're going to have to come to some sort of grips with that. You know what I mean? I wonder how my super spectacular, ridiculously enraptured sparkle trove of deviant wonder and by wonder I mean blender. Plunder. Asunder. That one's too funny. I can't say it. The plumber. And by that, I mean the plum. Oh, I'd hate to see you have to close your door to me. That'd be another thing that would be so sweet to celebrate. If we could just get off this, everything has to go through this most awkward, completely antisocial framework. It's just, everything is so foreign founded. Like it's founded in the foreign. And needless. It's such a waste. It's such a waste. Given how jovial and how nonchalant this place could really be. Yeah. Haves and have-nots are no fun. And haves do not write history. Have not number one wrote history in this case. I can't help but, what do you call it? Side with the have-nots. I just can't help but side with them because they're made of such moral fortitude to be asked to go through that. It's just nonsense. And think of the ones that are so far away and so far gone and so far lost. They're just being treated in all sorts of brutal ways with no end in sight. I'm just thinking about those 89 million refugees that are just on the run, nowhere to call home. It's just too hard for me. When I just need to walk out into the street, have my hand held like this, I want one of these, and to walk forward and to get my money circulating. I know exactly what to do with $250,000,000. I know I keep saying it. And inflation's just going to have to be dealt with at the time. Like I said, it'll soon emerge that we only have one real threat, and that is the one market stock market, or the two market model, that's just a money launderer. It's a money launderer. I guess I'll let you off the hook early today. There's no need wasting your time beyond that. But I mean it. We're such a vivid, talented species. And right now we're just suffering through this void of creative expression and revelry. And we just need to be living at such a higher vibration than this. It's so promising and so possible and so right around the corner if we just let it be. So I'm not giving up. Going forward, I'm just going to keep at this and keep making you see. My next stop is Scotiabank so I can put my iTrade account into practice. If that's what they're calling it, then let me put it into practice at least, and I'll show you what happens. Thank God. Just thank God. Thank God for that kind of money at our Back in fingertips, please. My liability, the thing about the reset sheet is the liability amounts haven't been spent yet. So there's no real liability amount. You've just got this amount in that is the guise of liability. You can also spend it. That's the thing about the true nature of the reset sheet is assets and liabilities you can spend. But liabilities can be spent on a way that manages debt, and assets can be spent. And then, like I said, develops the restoration network, a network of restorative practice. It's still money to be spent. There's no liability there. You just pretend it's there. It's not really there. So you might as well just spend it too. But it can be spent on things like debt. That's why I upped my antes for the liability amounts, because I wanted to spend it on things like debt. All right. I know that part doesn't make much sense, but like I said, to look at it for what it is, my liabilities are in the billions, so it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't affect my quadrillions. So even if they were to be seen as debts that I owe, I could easily pay them out of my quadrillions and just be done with the liability field altogether. But I think it's the best way to keep the asset stream fluid is to have liabilities that you can pay off to say thank you for the money. Because to have an opportunity to have unlimited amounts of money, if you need, until you don't need money anymore, until we're just evolved past it, which is happening. It's happening. You're not taking this off the collective. It's a timeline you can't collapse. You have not succeeded in collapsing it. You didn't even hurt me. You didn't even hurt me. You just disappointed me to the level that you can read it in my being. That's it. That's it. That's all you did. Wasting time, dicking around, having, oh my God, so many people suffer